All right, this is going to be the video that covers our curves introduction assignment. In this assignment, you'll have 3 separate files to turn in. We're going to have an assembly file. We'll have a right frame and a left frame. So what we're going to be making are the left and right frames of a mini bike. And we'll use this mini bike for future assignments. So make sure that you are keeping track and saving these files because you'll need to use them later on. So how we're going to do this is we are going to create the right side of the frame, and then we're going to essentially mirror this this solid body to create the left side. And the way that we're going to create the right side is we have these points, and these points are in somewhere in space. Actually, we have an X, Y, and a Z component to at least some of these. So this is not a series of points that are in the same plane. They are actually in 3-dimensional space. And you actually see kind of where they're located at over here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But point 1 and 5, these are not all in the same plane. And we can do that with index. We can create points and we can actually connect those points even though they're not all on the same plane. And that's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and get started. So go ahead and open up NX. Make sure that you have changed your role to advanced. And we want to create a new model. This is going to be a model. We're going to be in inches. We'll make sure you're saving it to a location that you can access later, and want to name this correctly. So the first thing that we're going to make is the right side of the frame. So we want to name this homework 12R. And we'll hit OK. All right, and so the first thing that we want to do is we want to put in these 5 points that we've been given for the right side of the frame. And so we have an X, Y, Z position for each of the points. What typically done is we create a sketch, select a plane. On that sketch, we create 2D geometry and we extrude it. We're not going to do that this time. We want to put these points in the 3-dimensional space that we have. So we're not going to go to sketch. We're going to go to menu, insert, datum, and point. So again, that's menu, insert, datum, point. Should pop up inferred point. And we are able to position these points in X, Y, and Z. So we are going to look at that table that we have on Canvas, and we're just going to start putting in these points. So point 1 has an X of 22.865. A Y of -1.936. And a Z of -15.5. Now we have 4 more of these to put in, so I'm not going to hit OK. I'm going to hit apply. And now that point has been put in space. Now I'm going to go through and put in the rest of the points. This is my last point, so I'm going to hit OK. We've got point 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So after we have the points, we want to connect them with lines. So we're going to go back to the menu, insert. Instead of going to datum, we want to go to curve and then line. And we want to start connecting our points. So with doing lines this way, we have to hit apply after every line. And now all of our points have been connected. Now we need to add the arcs in each corner. So the bike frame doesn't come to a point like that. These points are theoretical intersections. We have a radius on each of these corners. That radius is on that table as well. It's a 2.5 radius. And the way that we are going to put that in is we are going to go to menu, insert, curve, lines and arcs, and then we want arc, tangent, tangent, radius. So we're going to choose the tangent line, the other tangent line, and we are going to give it a radius. So let's start from this, from point 4 up here, and we'll work our way around. Point 3 is the really tricky one. So all we're going to do is we're going to click one of our lines. We're going to select the other line, and we're going to give it a radius. So we are at 2.5 inch radius. I just hit tab, and we can continue to go around. And this one's kind of tricky. Helps to like orient it, get kind of close. You don't want to get too close. Select the lines. And there we go. So it can be kind of tricky to get that last one in because it's just a slight radius there. And close out of the tangent radius arc. This curved area is the path that the tubing for the bike frame is going to follow. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to create our tube that is going to make up our bike frame. This would be steel tubing that we would then bend to this form to create this frame. Then we would weld up the joint, and that would be the right side of the frame. The cool thing about NX is that we have an actual tube command that we can use. So what we've done here is we've created the path that we want the center of the tubing to follow. And now we can go to the tube command and actually tell it to follow that path. So we're going to go to menu, insert, sweep, and then tube. So the OD of the tube we want to be 0.875. The ID should be 0.795. And then we're going to select the curve. Before we do that though, we want to come up here to our options that we have up here, and we want to select follow fillet. I want to make sure that that is selected. And then we're going to come down and just select one of our lines. And our fillet should be selected, or the lines that follow the fillet should be selected. We can hit show results to see how it's going to look. That looks about right. and we can hit OK. So this is the right side of the bike frame. We want to create a mirror image of this to create our left side. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a parent assembly, and then we will make the left side of the frame in that assembly. So the first thing we need to do is we need to make that assembly file, that parent assembly. And so we can go to assemblies, and what we did with the with our assemblies before is typically we start with an assembly file, and then we add components to that. So the assembly file on that situation would be the assembly file would be the parent, and all the components in that assembly are the child, are the children models. So we want to make a parent here, and we want to have the right frame a child, and then we're going to have the left frame the child. So we're going to create, we're going to go to new parent assembly, and it might not have looked like much has changed here, but if you look up at the top, we now have homework 12R, which is what we just created, and then we have assembly 1. So if we go to our assembly navigator, we can see that the homework 12R, this is our right side frame, is a child in this parent assembly that we have here. So this is named assembly 1. We want to name this our homework 12A. Now this is where, again, file structure is important. So we'll have an assembly, and we'll have the right side, and then we'll have the left side of the frame. We have 3 different components. They all need to be in the same directory. So it'd be a really good idea for us to create a folder, maybe name this mini bike frame, and store all of the components in that folder. Right now, I'm just going to save this as homework 12A. So my assembly will be homework 12A, and I'm just going to go to File, Save, and this is where we get to save our or name our part. So I'll do homework 12A underscore L2. And this is where you would save it to that folder if we had created one. You just need to really make sure that all our components are in the same location. So if you started on the desktop, make sure you save this to the desktop as well. Okay, and now we have our parent assembly, homework 12A, and the child assembly, homework 12R. Now, while we're still in the parent assembly, we want to create a new component. And the new component is going to be our left side of the bike frame. So I will just come up here and I will hit new component. So when this window pops up, we're just going to keep all these defaults. We don't need to select anything. We'll just hit OK. And you can see that we have a new component here. This is so we have this child, and then now this child inside the parent assembly. So while we're in the assembly, we actually have control over which part we are working in. So let's say that I needed to make a change to the right side of the frame, but let's say I didn't want to leave the assembly. I wanted to make changes in the assembly. I could make this right frame what's called my work part. And the way I do that is I can right click and I can say make work part. And you can see that now this component has been bolded, and I'm still in the assembly, right? I'm still in this assembly, but now if I go to my part navigator, I have all of the model history for the right side of the frame. Now I'm not in the separate file. I'm still in the assembly technically. I've just made the right frame my work part. So we can make our assembly our work part, but we can also make this new model our work part. So this is going to be our left side of the frame. And you can see as when I selected that, the right side of the bike frame kind of turned gray. That's what we want. We want to make the left side of the bike frame our work part. And I'm going to go ahead and save this so I can name it. It's going to be homework 12L. Make sure you save it to the same place that you saved the right side bike frame and the assembly. Remember, ideally, this would be in a folder labeled mini bike, something like that. So now we have the 12L. This is the left side of the frame, right side of the frame, and then our assembly. So now to make the left side of our bike frame, we're actually going to take a mirror image of this, the right side, to make our left side. We don't need to redo the points and redo all this information. We can just copy over the geometry. And so we want to make sure that we have selected our left side as our work part. So again, we would right click and select make work part. Make sure that that is bolded. The left bike frame is bolded. So this should be grayed out like it is. And we're going to go to menu. Want to go to insert, associative copy, wave geometry linker. We want to go to mirror body. And the body that we want to select is the right side frame. The mirror plane that we want is this XZ plane. And we want to make sure that fix at current timestamp is not selected. So just make sure that that is not selected and we'll hit OK. Now notice how the left side of the bike frame is shaded the way that we expect when the right side is kind of grayed out. That's because the left side of the bike frame is our work part. That's what we're working in right now. Now, if we were to make the right side frame our work part, then the right side is now highlighted. It's regular how we expect, but the left side is grayed out. Now, if we make the assembly our work part, both of them are shaded as we would expect. Now, let's say that I wanted to open up the left bike frame. I wanted to open it up in a different window, and maybe working on it in the assembly is difficult. I'd rather just make my changes as if I just opened up that part. So I can right click, and instead of make work part, I can open in window. That's going to open up the component in a separate file here. I still have the assembly. I've got the right frame over here, left frame over here. Now, because this is an assembly, I'm going to add a constraint here. If we were really making this, and this bike frame is not done, but if we were really making this, we would add a weld right here. And so we're going to try to kind of mimic that with an assembly constraint. So we're going to go to assembly constraint. And what we want is the bond. So the bond just attaches the items, the two components, the way that they are, makes them rigid together. So we're just going to select one side of the frame and then the other side of the frame. And here we will click on create constraint and we'll hit OK. Now there is a bond between these two. So wherever one moves, the other will follow. Make sure that you hold on to this and these components because we're going to need it in future assignments. But turn in these three files to the Dropbox on Canvas. And thanks for watching.